At the point when I was only 14, I was home alone with my better half, and my companions were all exploding my telephone inquiring as to whether I was coming to the homecoming football matchup at the secondary school. Obviously at 14, I didn't have a vehicle, and with no one to take me, I didn't think it was plausible. I told my companions I had not a chance of finding a ride up there, and they generally attempted to inspire me to ride my bicycle. Yet, I won't do that. I might have in the event that I needed to. Yet I would have rather not turned sour to the point of going to such outrageous lengths in a last-line exertion endeavoring to go. I sent my mother a fast message about the game, and I inquired as to whether she could take me. It was a Friday night, and she was out at supper with her new beau. In the meantime, my more youthful sibling and I were to fight for ourselves. She said perhaps yet she had no clue about when she would be home. I obviously obliged, and without any assumptions for going, I overlooked it and lost all trust. I was on the computer game, simply messaging and conversing with my companions when I got a notice from Mother around 2 hours after the fact that said, "Are you prepared?" I leaped out of my seat with bliss as my companions and I were truly energized that I could go. The game began in 20 minutes, so I would have been somewhat late. However, that is okay, slow on the uptake, but still good enough. I let my sweetheart in on. I would have been there soon, and my mother maneuvered into the carport around 15 minutes after the fact. Then off we were to the game. My mother chastened me and gave me a parent talk, like to stay on my best possible behavior and to not play the fool, no medications, no battling and all that wreck. She gave me $1.20 for the snack bars, while my companions were, at that point, hanging tight for me at the front when I got to the game. And the primary quarter hadn't even gotten done at this point, a little before, prior to going up to our spot in the grandstands. We watched the game with some greater amount of my companions that were there. I was living it up for some time, however, at that point, one of my companions pointed something peculiar out. There was a dull shadow like the outline of an individual as far as possible on the opposite side of the arena, not even in the arena, sort of behind everything by the forest. It was excessively dim to let who it or know they were doing, yet we as a whole considered what he was doing. We expected it was a man. Strangely, he was by all accounts stopping, and for around 10 minutes he remained definitively in that equivalent spot. My companion began to shout out to him to give him trouble, yet he was excessively far away so that him might hear us, so I made them chail before we got thrown out. For being too problematic, my companion Taylor said we ought to take a quick trip and see what he was doing. However, I believe that was a stupid thought, because who cares? I mean, am I right? Seemed as though inconvenience to me. I didn't see the point. Fortunately for me, while we were all talking, the gathering was derailed. When we thought back around there, he was gone. See, I expressed nothing distress over the game proceeded, and after a while we as a whole overlooked the man our group won, which was extraordinary. However, that implied the time had come to return home. We previously organized a ride, and my mother realized about this. Taylor's sibling should pick the 2 U.S. young men up and bring us back home. His sibling wasn't picking up the telephone, however, and my mother would be pissed in the event that I needed to call her with the shift in direction, so we sucked it up and chose to walk. Perhaps it'd be entertaining. In any case, fortunately, we resided in a little town and not excessively far from one another. It was a decent 25-minute stroll for the 2 of us to return home. Toward the start of our walk, we kidded about how we trusted we would run into that unpleasant person we saw before at the game. Be cautious. What you wish for, I surmise, on the grounds that after only a couple of moments we saw a man strolling toward us from the opposite side of the walkway. Just limited. He was separated from everyone else, and we kidded about how our desire was materializing. Obviously, Taylor being the simpleton he is, needed to threaten him further by hollering at him and calling him a fruitcake. "Brother, you want to chill?" I said that is likely not even him. There's absolutely no chance of realizing. "Man, quiet down." I said I needed to stay away from inconvenience, so to do that I made us remove a left hand, abandon the walkway into a little side road that leads into an alternate area, coming back in the nick of time before we and the man would run into each other that way. We didn't need to stroll past him in the event that he had terrible expectations. It sounds distrustful to maintain that viewpoint, and perhaps it is nevertheless. Confidence and confiding in your instinct. When we got to the opposite side of the walkway, I could feel something behind us, and obviously it was simply same man. He just remained there as he did before at the game. It was certainly the very fellow we both had that premonition, and I recently had an extreme inclination inside to run as quick as we could. Taylor suspected I was being horrible, however, I think he understood we were in a difficult circumstance when I ran in light of the fact that he likewise took off when I did. The man then, at that point, began running toward us, and we ran for no less than 2 minutes before I needed to stop, and Taylor left me in the residue. I have asthma, so there's just such a lot of I can run without in a real sense passing on. He was all the while pursuing me when I halted. I tumbled to the ground, attempting to slow down and rest, when out of nowhere I heard strides of the man moving toward me and the words, "Are you okay, mate? I simply need to talk. I'm here to help you." He then unexpectedly connected and gave me an inhaler. I took a gander at him with complete loathing, yet I had no real option except to utilize it after I got my breath back. He began praising me, letting me know it was all going to be okay, and I asked him compassionate to let me be and that I was upset for how my companion was acting. "What an old buddy," he said, "abandoning you while being pursued by an insane man, huh? That will show you who your actual companions are." He then, at that point, snickered wildly and attempted to get a hold of himself. I advised him to let me be truly, and he could perceive I was flying off the handle. I truly didn't maintain that he should know where I resided, and I felt so awkward by his presence, yet I truly didn't have any desire to show dread either, and I didn't have the foggiest idea what to do. There was nothing left but to endeavor to call the police. However, when I did that, he took my telephone out, furthermore, crushed it on the ground. I was truly blowing a gasket, as of now feeling that something terrible planned to occur, no doubt. And I felt totally weak. He was basically attacking me, continually contacting me, scouring my back and my face while heading back home. You won't ever accept what occurred straight away, however, it resembled a marvel. Unexpectedly, there was an official driving by, currently ready to come in case of an emergency to help one more official with an abusive behavior at home case. In the space when I saw him driving past, I shouted for help, and he directed his concentration toward me right away and quickly evaluated the circumstance. I shouted that this man was attempting to kid at me, and the man ran off tragically. He couldn't pursue him as he needed to ensure I was okay and didn't have any desire to let me be. He brought me home securely, and what's more, a couple of different officials went searching for him the entire night. I surmised that odd man was destitute, and following a couple of long stretches of looking through, they found him somewhere down in the forest in a path downtown, alcoholic off of his butt, and was captured for various things. I believe he's out of prison at this point, yet my folks won't let me know. I'm simply blissful. Everything ended up good overall, and I know now that wonders really do materialize. I mean, consider it. How frequently do you see police? Perhaps sort of frequently. Yet the possibilities of an official being not too far off right when you really want it without calling is a genuine supernatural occurrence. If you were to ask me, my last choice was to return home on the off chance that that official didn't appear, and I'm happy that I didn't need to do that, because then he would know where I resided. My dad most likely would have killed him. Wouldn't your dad? Simply a heads up, the story is very upsetting, and some of you probably shouldn't hear it. When I was a little kid, I cherished playing soccer. I began playing it when I was just similar to 6, and I played as far as possible up until I was 10 years of age. My folks caused me to stop the game until the end of the year after this episode to attempt to safeguard me, and I continued forever up returning to it in light of the injury that I connected soccer with. We had a game a few times per week. For the months we played, and we rehearsed each Friday, one Friday after training. My mother said I could spend time with my companion Julia for the evening, and that I would remain there until the following morning. Julia's mother was good with it, and they conversed with one another about it, so all was simply great. Julia's father was our soccer mentor, and he appeared as though a decent person. He was in every case exceptionally engaged with us kids, and appeared like a decent man and an extraordinary father at the time. Thinking back after how he treated me this night, I won't ever unsee it. And every one of the unpleasant comments I never got on before that subsequently were certainly his approach to prepping. Us kids, including his own girl time, was slipping away, and in the wake of playing with Julia the entire night, it was time to turn in. We dozed in her bed together, and eventually I awakened around midnight on ready to return to rest. I thrashed around for some time, and after I acknowledged I wasn't returning to rest at any point in the near future, I got up to utilize the bathroom, and after that I got some water. As I was drinking my water, I got out of the kitchen into the lounge area and investigated the main room. Julia's mother wasn't there yet. Her father was, and he was watching something he shouldn't have been on the PC. He pivoted and acted shocked, and I remained in dismay following a subsequent. He put his fingers up to his lips, advising me to be calm, and he uncovered himself to me. I don't have the foggiest idea how to make sense of how I felt at this time, and what was going through my brain at that point. Yet it was crazy. I realized it wasn't correct, yet I was stagger-locked. He then inquired as to whether I needed to help him out, to which I remained there for a couple of additional seconds and complete. Mistrust, he then said that I was all right and to not tell anybody. Fortunately, I pursued the ideal choice and ran back to Julia's room. Nothing else occurred until the end of the evening, and I laid there the entire night. It was difficult for me to adapt to what happened. I realized it wasn't right at that point. However, I was second-guessing myself on the off chance that I did anything wrong. So I didn't tell Julia or my folks until the following day. My folks defied Julia's folks, and obviously they avoided all that and had attempted to gaslight my folks into feeling that I was dreaming, and it simply was preposterous. Julia didn't accept leave me either, and we quit being companions tragically. We didn't have proof to prosecute him, and my folks didn't have cash for that one day around 5 years. After the fact, however, her folks got separated from after her father undermined her mother, and he removed her mother from the house since her father was the provider, and he had all the cash. The father wound up getting care of her after quite a while of fighting in court. Julia let me know that her father date assaulted her on various occasions and that she was pressured into not trusting it for a really long time, but rather said she came to when she found a video of her father doing it to her. It makes me wiped out to compose this story, and please accept my apologies for anybody that can't tolerate hearing it yet. It truly worked out, and this was certainly the most incredibly fiendish thing that has occurred in my life. I obviously accepted her when she let me know everything, and afterwards she wound up accepting me, and presently we're truly close again. I don't have the foggiest idea about how a man could be so messed up in the head to follow through with something like that to a small child, particularly their direct family. There is a gathering of 4 of us strolling after school. We didn't have a very remarkable arrangement, and we likewise had lots of chance to kill until the ball game at 6:30. My pal had the weed and a smidgen of liquor to zest things up. I suppose you could say we were somewhat the terrible children in school, so before you begin passing judgment on us, simply realize I, as of now, concur with you. I don't for even a moment drink or smoke any longer, and this all happened when I was a delegate in secondary school and just turned 16, a gathering of companions I had. We would continuously stroll around the town after school and simply have a good time being kids discussing moronic __. In some cases we would drink, or different times we would go to a companion's home and play computer games or stare at the television. This day specifically, we strolled to the recreation area subsequent to drinking and smoking, and we had no place to be with. Apparently a really long time to kill cool as a cucumber. We strolled around the town, knocking our Bluetooth speaker, and we got to the local area park. There was certainly not a ton to do at our age there. So we as a whole had some time off at the outdoor table, that is, when Aaron said that we ought to look at the ball game. What ball game, Tracker asked? The one that will be at Etherton Field, in a real sense right close to us in like an hour. It didn't seem like a lot of enjoyable to everybody except subsequent to, considering we had nothing better to do. We as a whole concurred we would go. I needed to go from the start since I had a lot of companions in our host group. After around 20 minutes of _ around, we concluded that before we go to the game, we'd go to a close-by trail and smoke some more since the weed was wearing off. We smoked considerably more this time, and at this point it was getting dull. It was 6 o'clock level, and we were simply wrapping up going to the game. We had around 15 minutes to walk still, and 10 of those minutes were absolutely strolling through the path. Trevor said he heard something behind us, and it portrayed us out. We as a whole halted and listened. "Did you hear that?" Trevor asked. We hung tight for no less than 15 seconds, and afterward kept strolling, ridiculing Trevor for hearing things that weren't there. We were savage as teens and extremely close, so we could make jokes like this with each other. So before you drop me, simply comprehend things were different in those days. Trevor has schizophrenia, so we as a whole sort of chuckle when that's what we recollected, and we glossed over it as him daydreaming something. I imply that was something he did frequently in any case. He was only great at concealing the reality when he would hear mind flights more often than not when he smoked, however it appeared. Like it would be more earnestly for him to determine what was genuine and what wasn't. I don't have the foggiest idea about it's difficult to see. Even Trevor began to accept that it was only a visualization. Or perhaps it was a squirrel. Nothing significant as we were leaving the path. However, we as a whole had a similar careful encounter. There was most certainly somebody there, and there were following through with something. And they didn't need us there. It wasn't somebody simply strolling, minding their business, since we as a whole heard strides behind us, strolling on the clear walkway, and afterward some shouting. Following that, it was the voice of a man, and he shouted these words precisely: "Leave and never return." Obviously that frightened the out of us, and we thought back, yet nobody was there. One of my companions, Aaron, didn't view it extremely in a serious way, however. I think he was attempting to play the troublemaker act on the grounds that truly he ran as, well, on the off chance that he wasn't terrified, why run in any case? We discussed what we recently heard, and Trevor had his little revenge snapshot of, "Ha ha ha, I told you so," and we let him have his second. Yet genuinely, what was all that about? I asked. We did not know. My companions being the troublemakers, they are concluded they needed to return in there to show them something new. Whoever it was, obviously they felt strong going in there collectively. However, I needed no part of it, so I didn't go. I was the only one in the gathering to pass on that. I just went to the game and hung tight for them. I wasn't there for this part. However, I will make sense of whatever might be possible from everything I was said. Fundamentally, what occurred in that trail was an experience with an unhinged hunting man. He was wearing all camo and had an orange cap with some large duck hunting type boots on. He likewise had a rifle lashed to his back, and later Aaron was done estranging him. The man threatened to use his weapon out and took steps to shoot him. I surmised that was the point at which my companions acknowledged they weren't quite so extreme as they naturally suspected. They were on the grounds that they all ran like damnation the whole way to the game, where I was with an insane story to let me know. He let off around in the air while they were running as an advance notice shot to tell them that he wasn't playing, and individuals at the game heard it, including me. It made heads turn. However, there was a firearm range a couple of miles away, so I don't think the vast majority respected it. I did, however, on the grounds that I was stressed over my companions. My heart was pulsating excessively quick while I was holding back to see them, and it was decent when they at last appeared safe. Truly, it sounds insane, yet we never called the police since we were concerned we could all cause problems, some way or another, for being connected to it. In addition to, we were all underage and drinking and getting high, and it was absolutely impossible that I was telling my folks they would have killed me.